What's up guys, this is Phoenix Arc and I'm bringing you my first Starcraft 2 map editor tutorial. This is going to be the first of several tutorials that will hopefully show you how to make a functional turret defense map like the one that I've been working on. And my goal for this is to be able to speak so you can listen to the video in the background while you're working on your map and not have to switch between the map editor and the video very much, because that's really annoying and it just slows you down. So let's go ahead and open up our StarCraft 2 map editor. And this is going to take a bit to load up. I'm using my laptop instead of my PC, so I apologize if there are longer wait times. The reason being is I'm using Camtasia Studio 7 to record and edit, but I only have the trial version, and I already used it on my PC. So, alright. Go to File and close the default map that the editor brings up, and then go back to File and click on New. And this will bring up the new document screen. You can see here we have a drop down called Dependencies, and next to that is a Modify button. Click the Modify button. Okay, and this brings up the Document Dependencies window. Near the bottom left, we're going to click on Add Standard, and we're going to select all four of these checkboxes: Liberty Mod, Liberty Multi-Mod, Liberty Campaign, Liberty Story Campaign. Click OK, and then click OK again. That's going to make sure that any functions, models, units, anything in the entire game that we want to use, we're going to be able to use. So if there was like a Rainer skin that was only in the single player part and we only selected the multiplayer dependency, we wouldn't be able to use that Rainer skin. Just make sure we're going to have everything we could ever possibly want. We're going to use a width and height of 128 by 128. That's fine. And for texture set, click on the drop down. We are going to use, let's get Marsara Wasteland, and let's make the default texture be sand. Okay, and base height 10, that's good, this looks good. Click OK, and the editor will now generate the map for us. This is going to take about 10 to 15 seconds, hopefully not much longer. Well, 15 seconds. It's still going. I lied. Okay. Here's our map. And if you've never used the editor before, your middle mouse wheel scrolls in and out. Your right mouse button, hold it down and you can pan. That's your basic movement. And there's other stuff, but I'm not going to mess with it. This will be good enough for us. First thing we're going to do, up at the top menu, click on the Map drop down and go to Map Bounds. Click on that. You will see a mini picture of your map, and on all four sides there will be some values. And so go to the top, click the up arrow. You can see we're increasing the number for camera and increasing the distance on the little picture of the map. That's going to make it so we can use more of our actual area in the game of the map. So go ahead and use the little arrows to bring the map out to its full bounds. So we're actually going to be able to use as much of that 128 by 128 area as we can. Now you can see I have a grid up. If you would like to use the grid, you can go to View, and then you can go down to Show Grid. I have mine on small. You can also show the placement grid, which I think is about the same scale as using the small grid. So those are just some tools to help you keep things nicely aligned. Alright, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to edit our terrain. So come up to our little buttons up here, and you can see the mountains with the little snowy peaks. That's our terrain, or you can press the T key on your keyboard. So select that. That will bring up the terrain editor. Now you don't want this terrain on the right. You can see there's two mountains that are for terrain, and the difference is that the one on the left is going to let you edit the terrain on the map. The one on the right is the current window you're using. So there's the terrain editor, there's a trigger editor, there's the data editor. Those will bring up separate windows in the StarCraft editor so that you can change separate aspects of the game. But everything on the left-hand side, where you see terrain, units, doodads, all of those are used to edit the visual elements of the map, which are all on the terrain editor. So click on terrain, and we are going to create some hills. So under brush, we're going to select cliff, which is the little cliff button with the green arrow pointing up. Make sure under operation we want raised cliff. Again, it's the green arrow. And for type of cliff, we are going to use Marsara organic cliff. Excuse me. Size, let's make it 8. That's just going to be the size that we paint on the terrain. And for shape, use the square. It's just personal preference. Okay. And we're actually, you know what? Let's make a valley instead of a cliff. That'll make this easier. So I'm sorry. Under operation, use lower cliff instead, and the rest should be fine. Okay. Now let's just go straight down the middle of the map. Just left click and hold it down, and we're just gonna make a big old valley right down the middle of the map. And when we get to, let's see, right about the middle here, let's make it jut over and continue down. And the reason we're going to do that is so I can show you how to make your units move, not just in a straight line. So just so there's a little flare. Make sure you make the valley wide enough so that units can move down it. They won't get caught or anything crazy. Okay. So for our purposes, the player will be on top of the cliff, and the computer mobs will spawn in the bottom of the cliff, or in the valley, and they will move from the top of the map to the bottom of the map. So that's good. And we're going to make this 2-player. One player will be on the left, one player will be on the right. That way they have to work together. Okay. Now we're going to do a little terrain editing. So on the left-hand side under your minimap, for the brush, select texture. It's the first one on the left. Operation is add texture. That's fine. And we are going to select type. Let's select Marsara dark sand, and let's make the size 8 once again. Increment, I'm using 100, and speed very fast. That will make it draw the sand quicker. It won't look as nice if you're trying to put multiple textures together or do alpha blending, but this is a quick and dirty tutorial, not a clean and nice one. Our tutorial goes to slummy bars and drinks heavily. So I'm just going to color in the valley just to make it look a little different, and just so people know for certain this is where the bad guys are, because it's a dark, scary valley. Yeah, you should be very afraid. And I got a little bit on my cliff there. Okay. And now that that's done, let's also make the starting and ending areas look different. So let's select Marsara concrete, and the north end of the valley we're going to make that be Marsara concrete, and the south end of the valley we're going to make that be Marsara concrete. Okay, that is our map. Very plain, very ugly, very dull, but it will work, I assure you. Let's also make a couple extra things. Since we're editing the terrain, we're not going to want to have to come back to the terrain very often. So up at the top again, let's select regions, or press R on your keyboard. It's the little box picture. Okay, we want to add region rectangle. That's already selected. So go to your starting area at the north end of the valley and just left click and drag out a blue box. Okay, and you can see that named it region 001. On the left hand side under regions, we can now see region 001. So double click that. That brings up the region properties box, and in the name we're going to change this to mob spawn, and click OK. Now let's move to the south end of our valley. Left click and drag out. Whoops. Okay. I have to go back and select rectangle under add regions, because we weren't drawing regions, we were selecting regions, since we had opened that one region's properties. So make sure you left click back on your rectangle for draw region, and left click, drag it out, draw a region on the southern end, and then go back under your regions, double click. It is also called region 001 now, since it's now our new first region. We're going to name this mob end. Click OK. So now we have 2 spawn points, We also need to create starting positions. We're going to have 2 players and 1 computer, so we're going to need to create starting positions. And give me a second here. Okay, so I had to go check something really quick. We need to go up at the top to points, or we can click or press the P key on our keyboard, and then under add point we want to select add start location. That is the little 4 arrows type of thing. So let's put 1 start location on the left. Let's put 1 start location in the middle of the valley, and let's put 1 on the right. Okay, now we're going to go up at the top, click on map on the map drop down, and we're going to go to player properties. So select player properties. Okay, player 1, we are going to make him, let's see, on the right hand side, color any, race any, that's fine, we don't need to mess with that. Control, make sure it's a user. And start location, click the drop down, select start location 001. We could also rename the start location so that we would know that's player 1 start. I was just lazy. Okay, let's select player 2. Go on the right hand side, click the control drop down, select user, and start location, select start location 003. And player 3, for control, set to computer, and let's use start location 002. Okay, now we have start locations for our players, and there's one more thing we need to do. Go back to regions by pressing R or clicking on the regions button, and make sure you have add square region selected. We need to add 2 regions to our valley so that our troops will move correctly. So in the corners of the little Z zigzag, we're going to make regions. So place a region in each corner. These are going to be waypoints for our troops to move. So for our first one, let's name it Move 1. And our second one, let's name it Move 2. So our enemy troops will spawn at mob spawn. We will tell them to advance to the Move 1 location. Then they will advance to the Move 2 location, so they'll move between the zigzag. And then they will advance to the mob end location, and that will be the end of their track. This should be everything. I hope I didn't leave anything out. Let me think for a minute here. That looks pretty good. So the next tutorial, we will go ahead and talk about editing the data.